Welcome to Crossroad Connection. We're speaking out for those left unheard. My name is David Churinga, the host of your program, and I'm the president of Crossroad Bible Institute. I don't know if you've ever thought about the idea of a church inside the walls of a prison. We usually think about churches being outside of prisons, but there's a brand new concept out there, and I have in the studio with me today Pastor Andy Hansen. Welcome, Andy.
Thanks. Good to be
here.
here.
And Andy is the pastor of a prison church in Ionia, Michigan.
That's right.
And it is it's more than really one church. It's one church, but with three congregations. Tell us a little bit how that works. What's the name of that prison there?
Well, there are four prisons in the Ionia area, all within about a square mile of each other. And we have congregations in two of those prisons. The first congregation was planted at Bellamy Creek Correctional Facility at level 2.
All right. I remember that one. I was a little bit a part of that when Rich Rienster was getting that going.
That's right. Yep. Rich did a lot of good work opening doors there, and the doors have continued to open. So we started that church, and I came on a few years after that.
Did you come there out of seminary?
Right out of seminary, yes.
So already in seminary, you had the idea of maybe working in the prisons.
That's right. I had thought about it for a long time, but never thought my wife would go for that type of call. And in my mind, Gail's voice is the voice of God. When she says no to something, that means no. That means
right.
God's telling me no.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. Happy life, happy wife.
That's right.
It goes, and otherwise you're in trouble.
And I'm not the only one being called. My entire family is being called to this.
So what happened? What turned it around?
Well, I went to Angola while I was in seminary in Louisiana. I went there.
Burl Cain's
that's right.
prison.
And I saw just amazing things that God was doing there. I felt like every day I was there, it was like I was watching Jesus walk on water. Like there was a miracle, a tangible miracle right in front of me. And I came away from there knowing Jesus better, and just could not stop talking about that experience. And it found its way into too many sermons, right? As a seminarian trying to draw on experience, and it was just such a powerful picture of God working.
And how did this get your wife involved then?
Well, I received the call, and we had
to Bellamy Creek?
To Bellamy Creek, and she was a little upset. And I said, well, why don't you just come in and worship? I haven't said yes yet. You come and worship with us. And
she had not been in one of those
services. She hadn't been in.
That's
right. That's right. And so she went to worship with us.
And did it?
And yeah, I asked her, well, what do you think when we left? And she said, this is where you need to be.
That's great.
So that's where
nobody ever forgets their first prison visit.
No.
It's like a born-again experience.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So
how long have you been there?
Let's see. I graduated in 2011. I had my three-year anniversary at the beginning of the month.
And it started off with that Bellamy Creek congregation.
That's right.
And then how did it move to two other locations?
Well, we were looking at ways to expand the ministry, ways that we could do more. When I interviewed with the steering team for Celebration Fellowship, they said, well, how do you feel about only having 3 hours a week in the prison? And my jaw about hit the floor. I couldn't understand how do you do ministry in 3 hours a week? And so immediately we started looking for ways to do more. One of the things that we heard from our men who move around so often is when they leave and then come back to us was how difficult it was in the other prisons they were in because there was no prison congregation.
Yep.
And so we took that as a sign that we should open more congregations. So if a man leaves, he's not necessarily leaving Celebration Fellowship or a prison congregation. He's just moving to a different house, and he can still go to the same church, just like you or I might do if we were to move around in Grand Rapids. And so our intent was to ask Hanlon, can we come and start a worship service at Hanlon? And the week that I was to do that, I went.
Hanlon being across the street from Bellamy
Creek. That's right.
Creek.
It's right across the street. The week I was supposed to do that, on Tuesday night, I went into worship at Bellamy Creek, and the chaplain from Hanlon was there to ask us if we could start a congregation on Monday nights at Hanlon.
Wow.
So that was a door just kind of thrown open by God.
So that means the prison likes these churches that the work that you're doing there.
Well, that's what we've heard.
And we're okay. We'll come back to that.
All right.
Just so we don't get ahead of our viewers here.
Mm-hmm.
Who needs a church in a prison? They have chaplains, don't they? And don't chaplains have worship services?
No, chaplains don't always have worship services.
People don't realize that.
That's right. Yeah, and a lot of people think I'm a chaplain.
Oh.
I get that quite often, but I'm not. I'm a pastor, just like in a congregation. A chaplain's job is very different from mine, and I would not want a chaplain's job.
First of all, they have a lot of administrative work.
That's right. A ton of administrative work.
And
that's right.
I also know from our own experience with chaplains and so forth that they're not evenly spread. I mean, you can have one chaplain for a prison complex of 1,500 people.
That's
and
right.
They have to organize all the religions, right?
That's right. They have to organize all the religions. And when you think about a prison environment, you're talking about a crisis environment. You're talking about a place where almost everybody that is there is in a crisis moment of their life.
Now, do the chaplains find you a threat at all?
They haven't yet.
Okay.
No, we've been very blessed.
They could be concerned if the state says, "Well, why should we be paying chaplains if we've got these pastors that are being paid for by the churches?" Right.
That's right, and I would say that the two chaplains that we work with right now are kingdom focused.
Yeah, Thompson, I think, is the one guy. I know
Dan
him.
Thompson,
good man.
Yep, and David Leslie.
Right.
And their desire is for the church to do well in the prisons. And
so how we deal with the chaplains too. We say we don't see our program as replacing anything that you're offering, but supplementing what you're doing, strengthening it, because we know you're busy. We know you have lots to do.
Yeah.
And so we help you so that none fall through the cracks.
That's right.
And so, it's no threat to their work. But tell us more about the difference, because chaplains do have worship services.
Yeah, some of them do. Chaplain
right.
Leslie does a music service at Hanlon, and he does it on Sundays. But there's just like we have different churches on the outside that meet different people's needs. Celebration Fellowship fits a particular niche. I've never been in prison. The closest I've been to prison was spending 3 months on a Navy ship in the Marine Corps. And the thing that you come to realize when you're put in close quarters with a bunch of men is
that they threw you in the brig or what?
No, is that but the living quarters, are very tight, and you're around young men, and the thing that you come to every conversation you've had before. You've had this you've talked about the girl back on the block at home. You've talked about the time that you went out and partying and did something stupid. What Celebration Fellowship offers is an opportunity for men to come and have a different conversation and to build a long-lasting relationship that's grounded in Christ. There's not a lot of church services that do that. I wish more did. Yeah.
Well, after the break, we'll have to get to that, one of these segments, because you're connected with a whole network of Prison Congregations of America.
That's right.
We've interviewed Mary Mortensen on this program at least once, maybe twice. And so that's a very interesting network of churches. But there's a whole lot more we want to talk about. This is an exciting thing. I can say it from experience because I've been there and seen it. I've been to this one. A few weeks ago, I was in the one in Newton.
Good. With Rick.
We had a 2-hour service there. It was just a lot of fun. And I've preached a couple times, the one in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, something like that. Yeah. So I'm very familiar and excited about what you're doing. But we want to tell the viewers a whole lot more. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Correcting Bible study lessons is crucial to helping inmates. To partner with CBI in this safe and secure role, please visit us at cbi.fm on the web.
Welcome back to Crossroad Connection. We're talking with Andy Hanson, who is the pastor of the church in Ionia, Celebration Fellowship, which now has 3. I think we talked about the second one.
Yeah.
That started in Hanlon. Where's the third one?
The third one is back at Bellamy Creek, but it's in the Level 1 facility. Bellamy Creek is the newest prison in the state. it's a multi-level facility. They have level 1, 2, and 4, and those levels don't mix or meet. They have to always be apart. And so when we have a level 2 service, we can't have level 1 men there or level 4 men there. It's just level 2.
That's all security.
All about
protocol.
security. Yep, that's right. And the level 1 is actually at a different. It's got its own fence. It's a separate facility from the main IBC buildings, but it's administered by the same warden and the same chaplain. And so we have a very different congregation there. And it's been a real joy to start that congregation. We went in there and didn't have much work to do, which was neat because the men were already doing what needed to be done. And we just came in to stand by their side and support them in whatever way we can without breaking what they had already built there. It was very important to us going in that we not try to fix what's not broken.
Sure.
We had a great leadership team there. We still do. They have a high turnover rate in that facility.
Of the people in prison.
That's right.
Right.
They move those guys around all the time.
You figured out pretty quickly why Crossroad Bible Institute went to a correspondence program.
Yes.
Huh? Because otherwise there's no way to keep in touch with them.
No way. Yep. They move so much. But even with those obstacles in their way, they had done a tremendous job of raising up that next generation of leadership in the church.
Pick up the leadership. Wow.
And so we learned from them. How are you doing this? And so they showed us what they're doing and how they're, it's a mentoring program that they're doing. And so we're going to start encouraging the other congregations to do that as well, because what we find part of our church is that we have inside leadership. That's something that is very important to us. But with the guys moving around so often, what ends up happening often is that we lose somebody on leadership team for whatever reason. They get rode out or they get released.
Yeah.
We have to replace them, and we're kind of shooting in the dark a lot of the time. We might get a guy.
You don't have a history on the guy.
We don't have a history on him. We don't know how they behave themselves. We want men that are going to be a good Christian example.
Not just use it as a platform or a power base
Exactly.
or something.
And so that's part of the process that these men have developed at level 1 is they get to know the men. They both learn something about Christ. They grow in their relationship with Christ through their relationship with one another. And by the time somebody leaves, you have a pool of people that have been through this mentoring process that you know something about. And that you also that they know the faith and you know where their walk is.
Yeah. So you're building a pool of leadership to draw on. There's so much I want to talk about with you and ask you, but just so I'm trying to give the viewers a perspective on this. When the times I came to Bellamy Creek, it was set up for like a 2.5 hour deal where first there was like an hour-long Bible study in small groups, and then a full-blown worship service.
That's right.
Is that still the pattern, and is that the pattern you use in all 3 churches?
That's the pattern we use in all 3 churches. That's our norm. That's what we normally do. Mm-hmm. But we also move with the needs of the church as much as possible. What we've started doing is maybe once every 5 or 6 weeks we'll have a prayer service where for that first hour it's intercessory prayer. Also, about every 5 or 6 weeks we do a teaching service, and that's where we look at some issue of doctrine or Christian life and examine that specifically. And that usually comes from areas of questions and concern from the congregation. So we've had teaching services on baptism and what does baptism mean.
Ooh, that could get a little controversial.
It gets really controversial. That's right, especially since we baptize babies, and a lot of our men aren't familiar with why anybody would do that.
Yeah, sure.
And so that's always interesting. It's never boring. We've talked about the Holy Spirit. That was interesting as well.
Oh, yeah, with the gifts and all that kind of questions will come up.
Yeah. So those are needs of the congregation that we're trying to. We want to always have our ears open to what is happening in the prison and what we can do to help men meet those needs, whatever they may be.
Now, am I correct that in terms of worship style, it tends to be a bit more formal than people sometimes are used to in prison?
Yes.
So it's drawing guys who are not necessarily comfortable with a loud Pentecostal sort of experience, but something a little more cerebral, something a little bit more intellectual. Is that being fair?
I would say so.
Yeah.
But we do have a lot of Pentecostals that love coming to our service, and we are happy to have them.
Sure.
Handlin recently opened the doors to anybody that wants to come to our service can come.
Oh, wonderful.
And so we have Muslims coming, we have Catholics coming, we have
fantastic.
not just Protestants, right? Because the
Right.
men have to declare what their religious preference
Yeah,
is.
no, that's awesome.
It's wonderful. We
Yeah.
are very glad to have them. It certainly makes the conversations interesting sometimes, which is important. I mean, my wife and I recently talked about doing a podcast where we would talk about what we read, and my wife said, well, we don't read the same things. And I said, well, that's what would make it interesting, right? That's why people would listen, because we would have a difference of opinion. I don't want to go someplace and always hear what I would say myself.
Right.
I want to hear what other people are saying. That's
Yeah,
what makes
well,
it
that's-
interesting.
Yes, right. A lot of people don't agree with that. They want to just read what they agree with. you know,
Right.
but,
That's right.
and-
We don't have that option.
Well,
Right?
it begs another question, but we don't have time to get into it. But okay, you said Muslims come in.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you treat them as people who worship a false god, or that you actually worship the same God, though they construe the nature of God
Yeah.
differently and his relationship with Jesus Christ, borrowing from Nicholas Walterstorff?
Well, what we do is we say Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and that none can come to the Father except through him. We don't pull any punches, but at the same time, we don't go out of our way to insult people, right?
And it is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
But they got to know there's a little more to the story.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's an interesting dynamic in the prison when you start talking about Islam. That can mean a lot of different things. It can mean Nation of Islam, and it can mean Orthodox Sunni Muslim.
Or Sunni.
Right,
Yeah.
and those are as different
Yeah.
as Mormonism is from Christianity or Hinduism. They're just completely different. I think a lot of our Muslims come from the Nation of Islam, and they are there because they grew up in a Christian church.
After the break, I want to talk about the relationship of your churches to the churches on the outside.
Great.
And also to Christians in these churches and how they can maybe get involved, okay?
Absolutely.
We'll be right back after this.
Stay connected to what's happening at Crossroad Bible Institute with Crossroad Network News. This free magazine is designed to keep you informed and inspired about what Christ Church is doing in prisons and jails. If you'd like a free subscription to Crossroad Network News, fill out the form online by visiting us at cbi.fm.
Welcome back to Crossroad Connection. We're talking with Pastor Andy Hansen, who is the pastor of Celebration Fellowship Church. It's unique in that it is a church with 3 congregations in the prison system in Ionia here in Michigan. And I think I allude to the fact that this is part of a whole network of churches, different denominations. It's called PCA, but not the PCA maybe some of our viewers know, but Prison
Right.
Congregations of America, headed by Mary Mortensen, where this whole concept started. And so you can be Reformed, you can be Lutheran, churches can have their own identity.
Right.
And these guys then see this as their church.
That's right.
These guys are connected with the church outside the walls because there are some limitations in terms of leadership and so forth. I know that in the prisons, they don't like one prisoner being over another prisoner,
Right.
so they have to be very careful with eldership terms and
Yes.
terminology, right? Things
Yes.
like that. So there you have an outside consistory or governing board.
Yeah, we don't. The Christian Reformed Church, which is the denomination we're a part of, doesn't really have a mold for us to fit neatly into.
Right. Your outside box. Yeah.
Yeah, and so as a new congregation, we have a steering team, and they are responsible for the administrative activities of the church and deciding what the future of the church will be.
These are not people in prison. These
That's
are
right.
outside.
They're outside members.
And these are people from various churches?
Yes.
How many churches are involved with your churches outside the walls?
Boy, that's a great question. I would say very easily over a dozen churches are involved with us. Yeah, and not all of them are Christian Reformed.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic that we have outside.
Yeah.
We'd like more.
Sure.
I don't see this as something that just the Christian Reformed Church needs to do.
Oh, no.
Right?
Crossroad Bible Institute did start within the womb of Christian Reformed people, but now it's multi-denominational, and we're much richer for it.
Amen.
There's no question about that. Volunteers. Do you use volunteers in these worship services? And I'm talking now beyond like the steering committee.
Yes, extensively. They are.
Why?
Well, like I said, it's important that we have different conversations. Conversations are how you establish relationships. We want these men and our outside members to establish relationships. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to matter. That's what really matters. The currency inside the prison is honey buns, right? I'll give you 5 honey buns for a soup. But what really matters is not honey buns and soups. What matters is relationships. That's where the real payoff is. That's what the real currency should be. And so when Celebration Fellowship goes in there, we go in there to establish relationships with the men so that when they get out, they have a church that they can go to and attend. And, the thing is, when you come out of prison, you have nothing unless you have relationships. You've got to have relationships.
Right.
And if we want recidivism to go down, if we want men to stop committing the crimes that get them in trouble in the first place, we need to surround them with a positive, loving community that is going to be there and listen to them, that is going to help them find the job, help them find the housing, help them find the support groups that they need if they have addiction struggles.
Sure.
All of these support areas are things that need to be in place when they come out.
So the people who are volunteers, let's say there's people that are watching who would like to volunteer. You have a website. What is that website?
celebrationfellowshipcrc.com.
Okay, we'll have it on the screen so people can get it. celebrationfellowshipcrc.com.
Yep.
And is there information there on how they can volunteer?
There sure is.
Because they have to have some training.
Yes.
They got to be cleared by the chaplains or by the prison.
That's right.
But then what they would do is they would come in, join you for those worship services, join in the Bible studies, and make those connections. And then you're saying the next step is the people in prison know some people outside. Mm-hmm. So as returning citizens, they have connections.
That's right.
Now, I know that that's part of the plan.
Yeah.
But early on, it wasn't working.
It depends on the individual. We've had some amazing success stories. We've also had some tremendous failures. And it really, the person coming out of prison has to decide that they want to take advantage of what's available to them. Mm-hmm. That
you can't do it for them.
Yeah, we can do as a church what we can do, and that's it. Right. There's a certain point where our abilities stop and where the personal responsibility picks up. And my prayer is that we can help these men develop so that when they do get out, that they really do want to take advantage. Yesterday, I spent the afternoon with a young man that got out just in time for Thanksgiving. He's been out 8 days, and because he got training on welding while he was in prison, he has a job 8 days later.
Wow.
Right. And that's amazing.
That is amazing.
And he has a sex offense.
Wow.
Those guys are impossible. It's impossible to find a job.
No, they're the contemporary lepers. Nobody wants to touch them.
That's right. But 8 days later, he's got a job, and he's got a church, and he's got a family that's supporting him and loving him. And you have to ask yourself the question: what is the purpose of our prisons? Is it to punish? Well, then, if it's to punish, then we should just leave them there. We should leave these men there forever. If our purpose isn't to punish, then when they get out, we can't leave them with nothing. they will end up back there if they have nothing. So the state gave this young man training in welding, and 8 days later he has a job. I don't know about you, but that's a much better program in my mind than giving him a welfare check or food stamps.
Oh,
he
yeah.
doesn't need these things now.
No, we want to get him off the entitlement fringe
Yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that. The reentry help. Do you see churches functioning as reentry ministries, or do you see reentry ministries the churches working alongside reentry ministries?
Yeah, I think the main vehicle for reentry has to be, the long-term vehicle has to be the local church, right? It can't be a parachurch organization, because a parachurch organization will not offer the relationships that a local church can. And so what we've done is we have a sister organization, Celebrate Reentry. We have a pastor that is working with us, Pastor Larry Van Zee. His job is, when our guys come out, to get them into the programs that they need, the addiction recovery, help them find their basic necessities, a place to live.
Which may or may not be in the church.
Which may or may not be in the church.
All right. That's what I was trying to get
Yep.
at, because churches every church doesn't necessarily have an employer who can hire them.
That's right.
Or people who can have addiction counseling, or people that can rent houses to them.
Right.
The church needs to be an integral part of that.
Yeah.
But you need a liaison to a reentry ministry that
That's right.
does have access to that, or you create your own network. Huh?
That's right. You need a short term right after they get out, and you need a long term. Where are they going to be 6 months down the road?
Right.
That short term has to be getting those helping the individual get those bare necessities: a job, a place to live, clothes, underwear. The guys come out, they've got one pair of underwear. It's the one they're wearing.
Yeah.
Right. And so they
And a
literally
one-way bus
have
ticket,
nothing.
yeah.
And so to get those bare necessities taken care of, transportation, that is in my mind, a parachurch organization role.
Mm-hmm.
Long term, it's got to be the local church.
Right, exactly. Well, we've quickly run out of time. I think you got to come back, because there's so much more that we can talk about. But we're excited about what you're doing. And volunteers, you can use more volunteers all
Please,
the time.
yeah, absolutely.
And also, there could be an influential person in a church here, and their church can get involved. And,
Yes.
and the website will tell them various ways in which you can train them and get
That's
them
right.
involved. Because who knows, maybe you got to open up 3 more of those congregations, huh?
Well, you know what? We'd have to hire another pastor, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. If we had a Celebration Fellowship or a Celebration Fellowship-like congregation in every prison in Michigan, I think I think we're headed there. I think that's where the Lord is taking things. He is
Right.
changing things in the prison, and if that were to happen, it would change a lot of lives.
Well, and also as we close, I just want the folks to realize just how important this work is, because of financial difficulties and so forth, and change in the air about sentencing guidelines, alternative sentencing. I think you told me before in another conversation that they're starting to release a lot of people.
Yes.
But
Yep.
if they're not prepared for release, they're going to make more
They're
mistakes.
going to be back. Yep.
So we got to get them in the church.
Yep.
We got to get them connected to the church on the outside. Volunteers can make all the difference in the world.
Tremendous difference. Yes,
Hey.
volunteers matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can see that God has you in the right place, Andy. Thank
Amen.
you so much, Pastor, for
Thanks
being
for
with us.
having me.
And thank you for watching. If you'd like more information, go to the website and become a volunteer for Celebration Fellowship and make a difference in the life of someone. And we hope to see you again right here next week.